Hey everyone, welcome to Bucs UK TV. It's episode 133. It's another Victory Monday. Victory over the Detroit Lions. I'll be honest, I didn't predict it last week. If I had some pie, it would be very humble. I would be eating it with my hat and ketchup on it. Wayne, let's start with you. Um, that was a game we should have lost by pretty much any measure, wasn't it?
Well, if you went by the first quarter, yeah, it was appalling. We couldn't stop the rush. We had no pass rush ourselves. They were all over us, and then we lost so many key players. We all saw in the first quarter it's going to be a long, long night, but boy, what an end!
It was amazing. And Dan, I guess
Hmm.
it was obviously fantastic to watch, but I guess do we, being honest, how much of it was the Bucks winning the game and how much of it was the Lions losing the game? Those turnover on downs at the end obviously completely shot themselves in the foot when we all thought, "Uh-oh, our game's up."
Yeah, I think that they're notorious for attempting fourth downs and stuff like that. And to their credit, they pull them off most of the time. I think a really big turning point in the game was that bit right before half time where they messed up a potential field goal attempt. The momentum that gave us walking off that field, not giving up those points there, um, was huge for us. And that's unlike a Dan Campbell side. Everyone's drilled to know what they're doing, when they're doing it, and how they're doing it. And they obviously didn't get that message across clear enough.
Certainly felt like the commentators were in the fan club for the head coach as well, weren't they? It's like, enough about him already. What about our coach? The one that's winning. Um, anyway, I'm still going to be bitter. No one loves the Bucks, but it's all right. We'll fly under the radar. All right, David. Let's go through our three zones of the ball. Let's start on offense. Um, let's talk about the run game first of all.
Well, it wasn't as good as week one,
Hmm.
but it sort of did a little bit, did enough to keep us honest. But we didn't make great strides in that. Apart from, of course, Baker. It was an absolute star with three really decent moves. Quite elusive, great play calling by Cohen on that touchdown. Really drew that up beautifully, and I think he looks just such a fantastic upgrade for our whole offense and scheme calling at the minute. It's just amazing. So, yeah, it sort of did a bit, but just about did enough. But yeah, nothing really spectacular.
And Wayne, in terms of the two backs, Rashad White and Bucky. Do you feel like Bucky might be starting to take the edge there?
I think he can. I think he is. I think Rashad White reverted to what we got so used to last year.
Hmm.
First down, run it into the back of your O line. So someone said on the forum, he takes too long to find a hole.
Hmm.
He's not a natural runner. He's looking for the hole. He's not going. But yeah, Bucky was. We're glad we've got him, really.
I would say in the run defense that our offensive line was doing more focus on trying to stop their defense than it was potentially than creating gaps. It was doing a lot of hard work in the trenches, wasn't it? As it sort of got battered at times. So, we had a couple of big tight ends in there, but they were blocking constantly. There's, it wasn't a lot of creating seams for run game.
Yeah, it's a good
So we
point.
also had
I think.
Rashad White, didn't
Yeah.
we? He was a bit beat up. We had a bit of a groin injury, didn't we? So, question if he was fully at 100% as well, especially later in the game.
And Dan, let's stick with you kind of then, as David's brought up. I think Baker's probably still got a bruise down his spine that says Hutchinson on it in very clear lettering now. Um, they were pretty impressive on D line, but I mean, was that all down to our poor offensive lineman getting schooled, as I saw online?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Aidan Hutchinson's going to make mugs out of very many offensive linemen in the league, and not just this year, across his career, and he has done and will continue to do so. We had someone in there in school that we'd probably sooner have not had there, with Gadecki being out. However, it just goes to show how we adjusted. I think, especially late in the second into after half time, we learned how to deal with that. We learned how to keep the ball away. We saw Baker rolling out of the box. We've used that run game better. We use screen games better to get his ball out of his hand quickly. And we just played a little bit away from them to take that away. And it did take us a while to adjust to it, but give them credit at the coaching level. They picked up on it and they did adjust. And that's a result of, we come away with a win at the end of it.
I'll stick with you, Dan, then. So in terms of that passing game, did you like the plays that were being called? Did you like the distribution of the ball?
yeah, you've got to play to your strengths. How many times do we talk about a running back and running with a hot hand and a guy that's
Mm-hmm.
in form? And we found Chris Godwin back in the slot where he probably should have been last year, and that was an experiment that failed again. Looks comfortable, looks confident, wasn't getting picked up. Mike Evans had a great week last week. As a result, gets double teamed out, as is often the case. So find the open man, give it to the guy that's confident, and just use it. There's no point in trying to force the ball somewhere when you don't need to. Just take what they're giving you. How many times do we hear commentators say it? Take what the defense gives you. And that's exactly what we started to do. And if they're going to give us Chris Godwin 8 to 10 yards downfield, we'll take it every play.
And yeah, it felt like there were a couple of chunk plays, weren't there, Wayne? It felt like sometimes we sort of up the gut, and then went deep. I thought the play calling was interesting. I was really excited after week one. I was probably a little bit more muted this week. Do you think that
Yeah,
was just the team, the system, the players?
I think it was probably the number of injuries we had that
Mm.
restricted what we could do. We couldn't let the deep ball develop too long because of Hutchinson, obviously. But I thought, we spread it as Dan said, we spread it around, and the chunks when they came, they were pretty exciting, and would like to see more to Mike personally. I've sort of got my fingers crossed for him to get in his 1,000 yards this year, and I don't think we got 20 yards this week or something. But you go, as Dan said, you go with who's open, you go with a hot hand, and Godwin was on third down, particularly was absolutely vital. I think, keeping drives going.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I guess in the past or last season, I think we'd started to see the development of the tight ends. David, it felt like the tight ends took a collective step backwards last night.
Well, they were more like offensive linemen, weren't they?
Yeah.
Apart from that, one opportunity where we were in the red zone trying to get a touchdown on that one that just, to be
Yeah,
honest,
Kieron, the defender did well on that
Oh,
one.
defended
Yeah,
on the opening
brilliant.
drive,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
an opening drive touchdown.
yeah. Will
We're
we ever
jinxed.
see next week? So, yeah, but their mission wasn't to get downfield and catch the ball last night. So, yeah, just, as everyone's saying, we just took what was available to us. I mean, that pass to Godwin for the touchdown, that whole scheme was just beautiful. The way that Mike Evans cut across, took away the safeties, and just left Godwin wide open. Great double move by Godwin to leave the defender thinking he was just going to come in and take a short yardage. That was just a thing of beauty, that play. That was just a wonderful series and great finish.
Brilliant. And as we scored more points than them. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
And I guess a large part of that then goes to the defense, Dan. And we flip to the other side of the ball. We mentioned injuries already. I was probably more worried about the injuries on defense than I was on offense, but turned out I didn't need to be worried.
No, right? It's a perfect opportunity for everyone to step up, show what they can do. There's a long season ahead. There's going to be many more that go down. You rely on a 53. That's why you have a 53. I mean, two guys that came in for Vita Vale in the game were practice squad call-ups the day before the game.
Mm.
So for them to step in and do a job, especially in that fourth quarter, trying to defend a touchdown to keep the win. Yeah, fair play to absolutely everybody there.
Yeah. Wayne, anyone you want to shout out to that particularly caught your eye yesterday on defense?
None that spring to mind. But I was going to say about Vita Vea.
Mhm.
I was on the forum. I was decrying the lack of a pass rush because we weren't getting anywhere near the quarterback. And when Vita went out, really very quickly realised just what he does for that defensive line, because suddenly they were just running it straight through the middle of us. And we didn't seem capable of stopping them. And once we're into the secondary, it was nail biting time. And can someone please tackle him?
I think it's a really good point. You say he doesn't always show up on the stat sheet to the extent that he does show up on the field. I think it's a really good point.
Yeah.
Well, it took 6 people to bring David Montgomery down at one stage, didn't it? They literally picked him up and carried him out like a Friday night bouncers in the nightclub, didn't they?
Guilty as charged. He is in my fantasy football team, so I was torn. Every time Gibbs got the ball, I was like, "No, give it to the other dude." But never mind. That's just that's my axe to bear. David, I do want to to talk about a couple of defensive players. I mean, the first one I want to talk about is Zion McCollum. It
Yeah.
feels like he's just come on in leaps and bounds, I think.
Yeah, I mean, all through the end of last season, training camp, they were really keen on him. I mean,
Mm,
he was ill last week, wasn't he?
mm,
Didn't get a lot of practice
mm,
in, but yeah, I mean, we seem to have developed a whole lot of secondaries that have become ball hogs.
mm.
Winfield Jr. obviously is missing at the minute. Cullen was reading the game so well. Isian
Yeah,
again,
Christian is, I think, another good
absolutely.
example. Yeah.
You could name all of those backs, and they all had
Mm,
fantastic games. Whitehead had a great game.
Yeah.
And one other guy picked up Sferian Dennis. Wow, he looked an upgrade on prime White out there. He was so fast out there, and linebacking, hitting the ball and getting to it. He had a fantastic game as well. So, we thought we were going to be really short in that secondary, as it was. Everybody turned up and everybody wanted the ball. And like you say, when runners got through or receivers got the ball, there were 3, 4, 5 of them hitting them every time. It was really exciting to see, actually, instead of watching a typical Buck secondary standing off. Really exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting. And Dan, as David said, sometimes it was a bit struggling to get pressure up front. But like people like Dennis, I was expecting Britt to step up, and actually maybe Dennis probably played more of that role. Obviously, we had Yaya, and dare I say it, JTS as well. I mean, I thought the front seven,
Good point. Yeah.
they didn't get a lot in terms of pressure, but it felt like they did the job.
They did, and I think it shows everyone now knows in the last year or two what this Detroit team's going to offer you. They're going to be big, they're going to be physical, they're going to be strong, they're going to be fast. And to go there and beat them, they beat us twice there last year, remember, and that it's painful.
Mm.
And we more than matched them in that physicality. We knew we had to, and every single person, say to a T, did their job on that. You've listed names out. You can continue to list names out. But each person knew their assignment. It wasn't to play pretty ball. It wasn't to be fancy and clever. It was to actually stand up to these guys and take the physicality with them. And that's what we've done across the board.
I mean, interesting stat, that fourth quarter, Detroit had 28 offensive plays, 23 of which were in the Bucs half, and they didn't score a point.
I think many people on the forum posted the phrase "bend but don't break." It was a classic example of that, wasn't it? They could move the ball, but it's the scoreboard that counts.
Yeah, stopping them in the end, stopping them in the red zone. Give up 3 if you have to, but God's sake, don't give up a touchdown.
I mean, and it was really hard. I kind of hats off to the Lions, and not just the head coach, but also coach. I thought it was a class in clock management. They exactly had the ball when they wanted to have the ball. They made sure that they were going to have time. They made us take a timeout when, whether we should or shouldn't, it's debatable. I think we probably needed to in case we wanted to get the ball back at the end. And I guess also in terms of penalties, there weren't too many flying around, but there were some substantial ones on both sides of the ball. So, but not as many as you would have seen probably in many of the other NFL games that day. So yeah,
well, we
really,
gave up
really interesting.
4 sacks. Then we had Aiden Hutchinson. If we'd have had Donovan Smith, we'd have gave up 10 holds. So it evens out, doesn't it?
It's interesting. I mean, obviously, do you think we need to go looking for linemen?
Well, it depends on the long terms of the injury, I guess, without knowing quite what it is. But I would say, given what we've seen, he deserves another crack at that. Not for his first quarter, because he himself will admit he got beat, and he got beat by a better player. No question about it. But he learned from it. He adjusted as an organisation and as a player. No, I think he deserves a fair crack at that now, if that be the case.
And I did think on some of the run plays in particular, or in fact the first touchdown, obviously I saw that we were coming a lot out in that 2 tight end set, but then that kind of disappeared partway through the game. I thought when we were getting someone's coming through sacking on the outside, I would have thought keeping a tight end in was quite useful. And it was demonstrated that on a lot of those big gains, there were only 2 or 3 receivers going downfield on those routes. So
it was. I must admit, when after the first quarter, I started watching Saul and thought, are they going to put someone in to help him? And they didn't seem to. And I don't know if I missed it, but there was very little. There was the odd play, but most of it was as it was when we started. And either he changed. I guess he changed the way he played so that he didn't get, because he was always being beaten around the outside, wasn't he?
Hmm.
So I'm guessing he changed the way he plays. We got upfield a bit quicker because we know from JTS, if JTS is fast, but if you push him around the outside,
Yeah,
they're
over
overshooting.
pursue. Yeah, exactly. And then last but not least, David, special teams. I think the jury's still out on this new kickoff because we need to keep seeing touchbacks really. The Lions did quite well out of it, but I guess the thing on everyone's mouth at the moment is where is the real Jake Kamada?
Yeah, his leg seems to have disappeared, doesn't it? I
Well,
mean,
some of them he was over kicking, I think some of them, wasn't he? So
yeah, but I mean, when we needed, or we felt we needed a bomb in that fourth quarter, it was another short one, wasn't it?
yeah, they had to end
Pressure
up
was
getting
on
the
him
ball
in
just on the
training.
halfway. Yeah,
Pressure was on him in training camp. They did bring in another punter, didn't they? And they stuck with him. But yeah, he seems to be about 80% at the minute. So hopefully he'll develop and move on. I mean, it's amazing on social media this morning. Lots of people saying get ready for him to be cut, but I don't think we're that position yet.
I'm not quite sure. Yeah. Also, yeah, it's not. There's no obvious tub of punters that you can just dip into and go, yeah, that'd be fantastic. It's
That's what
fine.
I'm saying. It's not like the differential is going to be great, is it? Moving
Yeah,
from one to another, let's be honest.
I
I
wonder
think
if in a couple of years it will come out that he's had to, or he's been coached to change his style of punting because his coach has changed, or something like that, and that's what's done it. He's not making the transition. I remember we had a punter a few years ago, and I cannot remember who it was. Did exactly the same thing. They were blinding the first year. Second year they disappeared, and it was because they were told to change the way they were punting because they were getting injured, or they were in danger of getting injured, and they never managed to make that change to what they've been doing all their life.
yeah, it's hard. On the one hand, like you say, it's just kicking a ball, but on the other hand, clearly there's more to it than that. Um,
Are we going to find out in the practice facility when we go and kick field goals?
Well, yeah, I think whatever happens there will have to remain behind closed doors, obviously. But we'll talk more about that in our next episode when we start to talk about what's happening in Denver.
Yes.
But just to close out Detroit, obviously we know we want to talk about Denver in the next episode. But I guess based on what you saw in Detroit, if you've got a magic wand and you want to wave it and try and fix one thing about the Bucs, David, what do you think where are you waving your wand this week?
It's all about injuries at the minute, isn't it? It's all about
So it's
just
a
getting
healing
people back.
staff.
I never thought I'd be pleased to see Luke Gadecki back.
Yeah,
But
come back,
yeah,
Luke. All is
yeah,
forgiven.
praying for V to V to
I'll take Jeremy Two Blood at this rate.
yeah. So yeah, just the healing of the injuries. So,
Very
but
good.
with all that adversity to come out of that 2-0, it's brilliant.
And Dan, where are you going to wave your particular wand?
I agree. Injuries are key, but I'd also like to see us just work with the backs and our offensive line a little bit more. Let's try and see if we can either create a gap in the middle or we can be a bit more creative with runs to the outside. Let's just try and see if we can break a 35, 40-yard run here or there in a game just to give defenses something else a little bit more to think about because that opens up the passing game all the way if we can do that. So all the time we're sitting there taking 5 and 6 yards, defenses can block that up. They can still drop the linebackers out. So I'd like us to try and see if we can create something that can just allow us to run that ball and just break off one or two a game.
That's a really good point. Although I think at that point, hat tip to Graham Barton. I think he's doing absolutely fantastically. When arguably the guards are probably the weak spot either side of him. You can see him there. It was running a quick tempo, calling out the blitzes, having to do silent snapping in a very loud environment. And you forget he's a rookie. He's a young rookie, and yeah, I was impressed with that. So Wayne, your magic wand moment.
So I'm going to go against it. I'm going to do it on the other side of the ball.
Yeah.
I would really love to see a pass rush that got home
Yeah.
and did to the other team what Harrison did to us and just knock us off our game. Because I think with Godwin, Evans, and Baker Mayfield and the running backs and everything like that, I think we've got the team there. Baker's his ingenuity and his making it up on the fly, that'll keep us in a game. But we need to stop them really quickly. I'd just love to see us get to the quarterback at least once this season.
I'm sure they'll come good eventually. I think I'm going to go back to the offensive side for my magic wand. I'm going to wave it in Jalen McMillan's face. I was kind of a bit down on him in week 1, but I went back and watched the game again. And actually, I think he does lots of good things, and I think he's deceptive in how like nifty and sneaky he can be. Obviously, he's not just about speed. I think just with a bit of confidence and a bit more repetition, I think he could be something really special. And I think actually with the regression of the tight ends, dare I say it, maybe we don't need four on the roster. Let's go and get some more guards to put through the rotation, maybe. Even if we have to play six offensive linemen at some point, I wouldn't even be adverse to that. Just bring one in eligible or something so we can block. But I think, I think we've got all the skill players we need, and he's the missing piece. So we shall wait and see. But obviously, that's only our opinions. What do we know? Give us your views as well in the comments section below when you're doing the thumbs up, bell, subscribe stuff. And we shall see you in a few days' time to preview what's coming up against the Denver Broncos. And we will tell you lots more about our fantastic trip to Camper that's coming. But until then, thank you for watching. Thank you, David, Wayne, and Dan. And until next time, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.